that I love to talk about, and we have somebody here.
Oh, we're so excited.
Is such an expert on this subject. We're going to talk about this topic of fathers and daughters in a way that will be, I think, critically important for dads to be aware of. I hope they are listening today. So, dads, if you're out there,
we know you're out there.
I know you are. We have something for you today. How a man rises to the occasion in the life of his daughter will affect the rest of her life. The choices she makes, the man that she marries, and how she raises her children, even how she dresses as an adult. So much is an echo from the relationship with her father. And the link between them, or the absence of that connection, has a profound effect on a girl. I wish every man knew this, but unfortunately most of them don't. They know they have a responsibility to raise their boys to be men. They don't realize that their daughters need them just as much and maybe more, because daughters are more sensitive, more easily influenced, need the love that he brings, and then that love to that degree doesn't come anywhere else. It's dad or no one for a period of time. Right, Luann?
Oh, Doctor, you just hit a chord with me. Speaking from personal experience, I cannot tell you the profound impact that my dad had on my life. So right here at the start, here's a shout out to Dr. Art Davis in Modesto, California. Thank you, Dad.
Well, today we are joined by a very special guest, a distinguished pediatrician and author whom I quoted extensively in my book, Bringing Up Girls. Dr. Meg Meeker is one of my favorite people in the field that I have chosen, and she is brilliant. The things that she has written on this subject of fathers and daughters set the standard for the rest of us. Her book, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, 10 Secrets Every Father Should Know, is an outstanding book. After you've read mine, you run get this one because it is right on target.
Yes.
Dr. Meeker is a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics and a fellow of the National Advisory Board of the Medical Institute, which of course was founded by our great friend, Dr. Joe McElhaney. She lives and works in Traverse City, Michigan, where she shares a medical practice with her husband of over 30 years. His name is Dr. Walter Meeker. And they have raised 4 children together, all 4 of whom are grown. Meg, it is so good to have you here. You flew all the way out here from Michigan to be with us today, and I am deeply honored that you would do that.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jim. I mean, the honor is mine. I will tell you, you are the teacher, and I raised my kids according to you. I hung on every word you said, so this is really an honor and a privilege for me, just a joy to be with you.
I told you in my office, and it was not hyperbole, that I've never read anything you've written that I disagreed with. And I don't think I can say that for very many people. You really have a fix on the family. Are you concerned about what you're seeing in families today?
I'm deeply concerned, and I do lose sleep over it, as a matter of fact. I'm particularly concerned at the rise in single motherhood. I don't know if you recently saw, there's a story, it was actually written in the New York Times, of a small town in Ohio where the incidence of single mothers having children out of wedlock under age 30 is 63%. I believe the national average is about 53%. And this causes me great grief because I know that kids who grow up, whether they're female or male, without a dad in the home, are at an enormous disadvantage on many different levels of their lives. And so that deeply concerns me. And that's why I feel called to champion dads everywhere. Wherever you are, if you feel you have a disengaged relationship with your daughter, you are estranged, if you're confused, if you feel insecure, start where you are and move forward, because it makes an enormous difference in kids' lives.
You know, my first book for families was Dare to Discipline, and a good part of the content of that book came from my mother. She had a great influence on me because she really understood kids, knew how to discipline with love, and she's gone on to be with the Lord. I'd love to talk to her right now, as a matter of fact, because she was such a compassionate mom. But you had a similar relationship with your father.
I did.
Who also had a profound impact on you.
He did. You know, my father actually, the first year anniversary of his death is actually a week from today. So his death is pretty fresh to me. And, you know, I owe everything to my dad. And my mother was a wonderful mother, too. But my dad had an enormity in my life. And I think that was God ordained. I believe that God has a hole in every young woman's heart that only her dad fits. And I wanted to tell the story of not only my dad's influence on my life, but on fathers' influence on their daughters' lives from many different angles, because I think that dads do carry an authority with a capital A in every girl's life and every daughter's life that dads just don't understand. So,
were you daddy's little girl?
I always felt it. Now, my dad never spoke to me as though I was his little girl. He never called me his little girl. But the beauty of my dad is that he communicated to me through body language, tone of voice, expectations, encouragement, that I was capable, I was loved, I was adored, and I could do anything in the whole wide world I wanted to do. And so I felt like the apple of my dad's eye. Yes.
He communicated his love to you, didn't he?
He did.
He was kind of a stoic, or a...
Yes. He was a very smart man. He was a physician who worked at Mass General Hospital in Boston for a number of years, did a lot of research, very introverted, very quiet, but his life was all about family. We always knew that his number one priority in life was family. And my dad communicated his love to me in many ways that modern dads today might think are backwards or wrong. For instance, my dad communicated profound love to me by being a very, what I perceive to be obnoxiously overprotective dad in my teen years.
You worried about that for a while, didn't you?
I did, but I always felt adored whenever my dad did his crazy things, like if I wasn't home by midnight, which was my curfew, and he knew the restaurant I was eating at with a particular guy, he would call the restaurant and have me paid. Oh, I kid you not. My dad was a hunter, and he had his rifles on display in the family room for everyone to see.
By no accident.
By no accident. And the men who dated me when I was a teenager, I didn't date a lot, had profound respect from my dad, and he didn't have to speak very much. My dad always met them, was always home waiting up for me when I came home from a date. So he didn't use many words, but there was no question that he adored me as his daughter.
You told a story in your book about being an hour late for the curfew, and when your boyfriend brought you back, he had to face Daddy.
He had to face Dad. Yes, he did. That was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. And I will admit to you, I was probably 21 years old. I was no kid. You know, parents now would think, oh, she should have done. But even at 21, I just graduated from college, and I came home late. And it's not that my dad thought I was a bad kid, I was going to do bad things. He really worried that I was going to be in a ditch somewhere. And so this gentleman brought me in, and he dishonored me by bringing me home too late, and my dad worried, and my dad met him and said, "You'll never show your face in this house again." And I was mortified, and I didn't speak to my dad for 3 days. But now, as a 54-year-old woman, I look back on that, and I miss that so much.
Meg, you talk often in this book about dads being protective
Yes.
of their daughters and how much that's needed today.
Yes.
Now, that could be seen as overbearing or,
Over-controlling.
Yeah. But you talk about it as a very positive thing.
Yes, very much so.
That's often missing.
Yes. I think that if fathers struggle with anything in this generation of parenting, I think that they're timid. They're so afraid to act according to their instincts. And I believe that every man has a wiring within them to appropriately protect his daughter and to keep her safe, to encourage her how to dress in a healthy way, how to act on a date in a healthy way, what to expect from men. And when men fail to act on those instincts, they do their daughter a huge disservice. And I think that the protection instinct that comes from a dad is given by God to make daughters feel loved and to protect them from themselves and from teenage boys.
Even if the girl does not want it.
She'll never act like she wants it. But dads know what they need. They just need to be encouraged to act on their instincts because they will get it right. There is a difference between overbearing and over-controlling than being overprotective, but I don't think that that's a big problem in today's world because dads always ask me, I tell my daughter that she shouldn't dress a certain way going to school. Am I being overprotective? And I said, if you feel like you're broaching being overprotective, you're probably getting it just about right now. Because we have a generation of dads who are really too timid for many reasons that aren't their fault. We women, we mothers, teach dads to back off, and we communicate that to them a lot. We mothers are all about raising girls. We know how to do it. Dads don't. So our language and verbiage says to them, get out of the way. And we really do our daughters a huge disservice. So dads need to really not let their feelings get hurt. Don't be intimidated by your daughter and what she doesn't want and having temper tantrums because you are going to make her wear a longer skirt to school, or that she can't show her midriff, or she can't date so-and-so because you've looked in his eyes and you know that guy's a bad egg.
Well, her sexuality is a problem for him.
Exactly.
He does not want to overstep boundaries. He doesn't want to embarrass her. He doesn't want to wade into an area that a man should not be handling. But the truth of the matter is, he's needed right in that arena.
Yeah. Dad is extremely important in the development of a healthy sexuality in a girl. Mom helps, but the masculinity is need to sharpen the femininity. And it's only against dad that a girl can develop, against that masculinity, that she can develop a strong sense of femininity and female identity. So right at a time when dad feels he needs to be backing off, when she's around 13, she's going through puberty, she's snarling at him. And dads get their feelings hurt terribly. I realize that. The minute a girl, dad tries to hug a girl and she stands like a rigid telephone pole, he'll say, okay, I'm out of here, I won't do it. And that's exactly the time he needs to be moving in. He needs to be moving closer to her, not farther away, because she needs a man's presence. She needs a dad to have her back. Dads want their daughters safe, protected, and strong. And when they speak that way, they sound overprotective. But that's okay. Do it anyway.
I'm sure you've seen the research that I'm also aware of, where when a girl goes into puberty, especially the first 2 or 3 years, the father becomes very nervous about that because he doesn't want to touch her in a way that would offend her. He just doesn't want to cross the line, so he leans backwards.
Right.
He tends to lean away from her.
Yes.
And she looks at her younger siblings who are crawling all over their father, and he's got them on his lap or on his back or what have you. And she notices that there's something very different. And the natural conclusion is that I'm not attractive.
Right.
I'm not interesting.
Right.
Why would Dad reject me like this?
Right.
I've even seen it called the Leaning Tower of Pisa, where Dad is actually leaning away because he's uneasy. It is not because he's physically attracted to her.
Exactly.
She's his daughter. It's because he doesn't want to make a mistake.
Exactly. Yes.
And as a result, he does.
Right. He does.
Was
and
your dad physical with you when you were going through the teen
my
years?
My dad was. He hugged me. He would touch my head. He would touch my shoulders. And that's where I encourage dads to do. If you are feeling those feelings of insecurity or discomfort touching your adult-looking daughter, tell yourself you're feeling them, but act differently anyway. Pretend you're not uncomfortable. Move forward and hug her. If she's uncomfortable or you're uncomfortable hugging, touch the top of her head, touch her hair, touch her shoulder. And in girls over time, they will accept that from their dads. But you and I both know that the reason that girls are sexually active during their teen years has nothing to do with physiology. It has to do with wanting male attention and affection.
And if she doesn't
get it at home. Yeah. So I am a little bit brash, and I will tell dads in a live audience, these are your issues, get over them. If you're uncomfortable with your daughter, I know it, get over it, because she needs you to move into her life, to engage her. She needs you more now at 15 or 14 than she did when she was 5.
Luann, talk about your dad. You have mentioned him many times here. You were very close to him.
Yes, I was. In fact, it's important. I'm thinking, Dr. Meeker, you're not describing someone who's perfect. Your dad was not perfect. My dad was not perfect. You're just describing someone who is consistently there, and in the way that you hear it, they tell you that they love you. All these dads we're speaking to are very different. Mine was not especially affectionate in that way, but he constantly would reaffirm me, tell me just what you said. You can do whatever you want, Luann. You are talented. You are capable. You are able to do all of these things. And he connected with me on so many levels that I just knew it. But he was not perfect. And I don't want the men listening right now to think, boy, I can't live up to all of this. I can't be a Dr. Dobson or your husband. That's not what we're looking for, is it?
Right. No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, my dad had a lot of cracks and flaws, and we talked about them, and I forgave him, and he forgave me, and we had conversations like that. But I think that what I'm trying to do in the book is to allow dads a glimpse of who they are from behind their daughter's eyes. Because I think that if you get a little glimpse, you will give yourself so much grace, and you will realize, first of all, she'll be the most forgiving woman you'll ever come in contact with in your life. Because every daughter takes one man to her grave, and it's her dad. You always want more from your dad. You want more healing, or you want more time. So from a daughter's perspective, you don't need to be really great and perfect. You just need to get some of the big things right. And any dad can get the big things right. I've seen it. I've worked with daughters whose dads have been in prison and who've committed awful things. The daughters still long for something better with their dad. So dads need to know that your daughter wants more with you. So that's why I say, wherever you are in your relationship with your daughter today, be bold enough to move forward, work on improving some things, reconcile if you need to, but don't worry about the small details. Just work on the big things.
Even if they're grown?
Oh, especially if they're grown. It's never too late. I interviewed many adult women for the book, and it was very interesting to watch their reactions, and we were talking a little bit about this in your office, Jim, and that is, when you ask a grown woman if she wants to talk about her dad, you get one of two reactions. Nothing is lukewarm. She either gushes about her dad and won't stop, or she bursts into tears. Yeah.
Because she desperately needs something.
She needs something.
You talk in your book about the fact that mothers are inclined to give advice, to talk a lot, to tell them what to do. In many cases, what they need from their dads is silence. They need him to connect eye to eye and listen.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And in my experience during the teen years, when I have a girl who's going through a lot of issues, it's often dad that we recruit to really help her, because in general they're better listeners because they don't use as many words. We mothers who believe that we understand our daughters better because they're women, they're female, so we get how their minds work and so on and so forth. And we use a lot of words. We interrupt our daughters, and we don't listen because we're ready to tell her where she's wrong. We're ready to correct her. We're ready to jump in and steer in a different direction. And we want every moment to be a teachable moment. Dads don't seem to live with that kind of pressure. They feel, in my experience, they seem a bit more relaxed to take it all in, process the information, see it as a problem, come up with a solution, and then maybe dialogue about it. The more you listen, the more you look at her, the more you let her know you enjoy her company and you like hearing what she has to say, she will not stop talking.
Here is the rub for a middle school girl. And you've seen it 1,000 times, Meg. The girls at that age feel awkward. They feel ugly. Most of them. They feel unacceptable to the opposite sex. They feel lost. They're easily embarrassed. Their feelings are on their sleeve. And their dads have the potential as being the first and most important individual in their lives to say, "You're beautiful. I love you. I care for you. You are acceptable. You're a marvelous human being." And that is like watering a flower in the desert. That meets a need that just aches for fulfillment. Elaborate on that.
It definitely does. And as you described women, I thought, well, maybe you're describing older women, because a lot of us feel that way too. You know, you're absolutely right, because every girl goes through a period, or even an extended period now in our culture, where they feel unacceptable, ugly, fat, and so forth. And they are desperate. That's not too strong of a word. They are desperate to hear truth in a healthy, positive way. And when it comes from dad's mouth, it carries a weight that it doesn't when it comes from mom's mouth. That's not a slight to mothers. But from a girl's perspective, mom has to say nice things. Mom has to love. Mom's mom. Mom always talks. But when it comes from dad, usually it's said once. Because dads don't repeat themselves the way we do, right, Luann?
Oh, you got that. Guilty.
We just have to make sure you really hear it, so we'll say it a 10th time. And it carries a weight, and it carries that authority with a capital A. But what it does, most importantly, from a girl's perspective, is a daughter hears those words, and she integrates them into her young mind, and she formulates different pictures about who she is and what she looks like. So if daddy says she's beautiful, she reimagines a picture in her mind of her looking not quite so chubby, but really pretty. And if my dad says I'm pretty, the next time I hear Joey in my class call me stupid or fat, he's wrong, because my dad's right. So then she goes on to compare what dad says to what all the other boys say, even into her dating years.
Oh, what a powerful picture of how important the influence of a father is in a daughter's life. I know I took so much away from this program in regard to building a relationship with my daughter Lucy, and I'm really looking forward to the next 2 parts of this program. You've been listening to the first part of a classic broadcast with our guest, Dr. Meg Meeker, here on Dr. James Dobson's Family Talk, featuring our former co-host, Luann Crane. So if you'd like more information about Dr. Meeker or her book, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, visit our website, drjamesdobson.org, or call us at 877-732-6825. Thanks for being with us today, and don't forget to join us for part 2 of this program on the next edition of Dr. James Dobson's Family Talk.